Hello. Welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction post-game show where the Sacramento Kings take one in the chops. Drop one to the Clippers, 126-99. George Karl warned us that there would be ugly games ahead, folks. He warned us. I don't think anyone wanted to believe it after Friday night's huge victory over the Boston Celtics. But sure enough, the Sacramento Kings fall flat tonight and get steamrolled by the Los Angeles Clippers. I am James Ham. Joining me, Mr. Rui Thomas. Say hello, Rui.
Hello.
There's Rui, quietly saying hello. That's right, the Sacramento Kings. This was a very interesting game. They came out and they played a really good first quarter. They led 29-24 at the end of one. And then, man, oh man, the wheels fell off the bus in the second quarter. They get outscored 42-18 in that second quarter. And this is what we've seen from this team so many times this season. Second quarter, third quarter collapses. The bench comes in. Things fall apart. Is that what you saw tonight, Rui? Just the standard Kings meltdown?
Oh yeah, George Karl. He performed the same recipe. The Kings came out hot. We saw them moving the ball really well and taking really good care of the ball. They didn't have a turnover in the first 10 minutes of the game when they were led at 29-19. But then we saw the Clippers go on a little run to finish the first quarter. Came into the second quarter on a 12-0 run before the Kings called a timeout. Eventually led to a 23-4 run when the Clippers just completely took over. The Kings only shot 26% in the second quarter. They shot 20% in the third quarter while their defense collapsed, and they allowed the Clippers to shoot 73.9% in the second and 60% in the third. The ball movement just died in the second quarter, even with Andre Miller in the game. And the Kings struggled to make a lot of shots while the Clippers had many hot hands.
Yeah, isn't that strange that the Sacramento Kings shot just 34% from the field? You're right, 18 assists. It was like things were going well, and then they just went away from what works. And the one thing I'll point out, DeMarcus Cousins, for the second game, he picked up a technical. He's having a little trouble transitioning to George Karl and sort of the emotion of what's going on with this team. You can tell he doesn't like getting smacked around. He likes to get up against guys like DeAndre Jordan, a guy that he knows really well from playing against him and on the select team and Team USA stuff. So I think this is one of those games where he came in a little too hopped up. He has a disastrous line. He scores 21 points, but he has only 4 rebounds. 4 rebounds. And not only that, but he has 5 turnovers. He shoots 6 of 19 from the field. He got in some foul trouble. This is a game where what I would like to see out of Cousins is for him not to shy away from a guy like DeAndre Jordan, because I don't think a guy like DeAndre Jordan is the type of guy that slows him down. For me, it's Big Baby who can really do some damage, a ground-based guy who's thick, who does a lot of damage against Cousins typically. I would have liked to have seen Cousins go right at DeAndre Jordan, get him out of the game, get him in foul trouble early, and then just, have an easy game against the Clippers. But that's not what happened. So what happened was the Clippers kept running pick and rolls with DeAndre Jordan. DeMarcus Cousins was slacking off on his defense, trying to stop DeAndre Jordan from posterizing him one time after another. And what that did is it opened up the court for the penetrating guard and the wide open kick to the three ball. And it really, really hurt the Kings tonight. I mean, we see, you're right, Rui, so many different guys go off. I mean, Austin Rivers has a career night. Jamal Crawford just looked like he was playing against, children. It was just ugly. And this team, for all the things that we've seen so far, they're not a great defensive team, especially in the backcourt. So, Rui, would you agree that the pick and roll defense is what probably let this team down the most?
Oh, definitely. The Kings all season long, they've struggled to fight through or around screens. I'm not really sure if it's an effort thing or whether they're told to go underneath, but you can't do that against the Clippers, because they have so many good deep ball shooters. We saw J.J. Redick and Jamal Crawford come off screens very often. They scored, I believe, 47 combined points. And, yeah, I mean, that's a really good way to tear up the Kings' defense and they haven't really found a way to stop it or slow it down.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse if Jamal Crawford didn't go 1 of 7 from behind the arc. It could have been a lot worse, Kings fans. They were down by 30 in this game, over 30 for a little while in this game. Just an off night. I mean, you could tell right away that it was an off night. Rudy Gay finishes with 15.6 assists. He shoots only 4 of 13 from the field. So you get a combined 10 of 32 out of your two big stars after they were so incredibly good last night. Jason Thompson, it looked like he had won his starting job back. After last night's game, he came in after 5 minutes of Carl Landry, and he did a really nice job, and it appeared that he'd won his starting job back. And then tonight, just lays an egg. He goes 0 for 4, only 4 rebounds in 21 minutes. Again, he played aggressive and strong, especially on the defensive end. I was impressed with what he brought, but not a great game overall for Jason Thompson. Ray McCallum, 10 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds in 23 minutes. He also had 2 blocks. At least one of those was against Chris Paul. I'm not sure who the other one was. But we're seeing Ray McCallum getting some serious minutes, not just at the point guard in lieu of the injured Darren Collison, but also at the 2 guard. George Karl ran a backcourt of Andre Miller and Ray McCallum for just a little while in this game, and I was kind of intrigued by that. What are your thoughts on Ray McCallum and sort of what he's been able to do here in his little bit of a showcase for George Karl?
Well, James, and he's had the 2 spot starts since the All-Star break, and that seems to have like revitalized McCallum and really boosted his confidence because his shot looks really great after struggling for the entire season leading up to this point. Those numbers you mentioned, he produced almost all those in the first half because he only played 5 minutes in the second half and added 1 rebound and 2 assists in that span. But he wasn't a reason why the Kings lost tonight because he made his open looks, he took care of the ball, and he did involve others. He played fairly good defense on Chris Paul, but it didn't come down to the point guard position.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to a lot of other issues. I mean, tonight, I think George Karl gets a little sniff of the Derek Williams that the Kings fans become to know and love. Last night, he looked really good running the floor. I think he had 11 points in limited minutes. Tonight, he goes 1 of 5 from the field in 19 minutes, gives you very little. Omri Caspi, what is going on with Omri Caspi? After a huge night last night where he tied his career high with 12 rebounds, what do you have, like 7 points, 6 assists, 12 rebounds last night. He comes back tonight with 11 points and 17 rebounds. This guy is all over the court. He seems revitalized. I talked to him in the locker room before and after last game, and he told me that his knee feels great, that he's had some time off, and it really helped sort of re-energize him, and really his knee has felt better than it has in years. But 17 rebounds, just incredible numbers. I guess somebody had to rebound when you're going to shoot 34% from the field, and DeMarcus is only going to grab 4. But Caspi took full advantage of that. What are your impressions on Caspi so far in the George Karl era of 2 games, Mr. Rui Thomas?
Well, Karl doesn't seem to mind allowing players other than his point guard lead transition breaks, which is perfect for Caspi because we saw earlier in the season under Malone he could take the ball coast to coast and finish in the paint. You can't call him soft if there's any doubts about that at this point because he loves to scrap down low. I believe he's only 6'8" and not very heavy, but he definitely loves to fight for offensive rebounds. I believe he's 5th on the team in offensive rebounds per 36 minutes. And though getting those extra possessions puts him on the lines we saw tonight, and just helps the Kings a lot. So Caspi, at this point the Kings should look into perhaps extending his time here after the season.
I couldn't agree more. Caspi's on a 1-year deal. I think he loves Sacramento. I think he wants to be here. He was a budget player. I mean, they got him for less than the minimum because they waited on him. I think he's a guy that can really help this team going forward, and he kind of fits what George Karl is trying to do here. So I wouldn't doubt that you're right about that Caspi gets a 2-year deal or something this summer to stick around in Sacramento. Something 2-year, $3 million deal, 2-year, $4 million deal, something low budget, but that keeps him in a Kings uniform going forward. All right, let's get to one other thing that happened tonight. The son of legendary point guard John Stockton, Mr. David Stockton, got a chance to get into an NBA game for the first time in his life. He's a young man that did not get drafted this offseason. He's been up in Reno doing some pretty remarkable things, pretty much doubling any stat that he had ever done at the college level at Gonzaga. And so, I had a chance to meet him in the locker room yesterday in pregame. He didn't have shoes on, and he was probably 2 inches shorter than me, and I'm right around 5'11". He is absolutely tiny, and they list him at 165. There's no way he's 165. He's a speedster. He's running all over the court. He's used to that Grinnell style that they've been running for the last couple of months up in Reno. Kind of a fun thing to watch him make his debut. His dad made his final regular season game was in Sacramento for the Utah Jazz. Kings fans gave him a standing ovation. It's been at least a decade. But to see David Stockton actually get some time tonight, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Field of Dreams, Moonlight Graham, getting that one opportunity. Because I don't know, this kid is maybe like 140 soaking wet. He has 1 assist, 1 point tonight in 7 minutes. He had a couple of turnovers. He got beat up a little bit here and there, but I think it was cool to see this kid get a shot at the NBA level. I guess the guy he really reminds me of, Rui, is Captain America before he gets the shot. So like Steve Rogers, when he's like the small guy that can't make it into the military. That's who he kind of reminds me of. He's just a little tiny guy with a nice little John Stockton haircut. So good for David Stockton. Was there anything that you saw out of David Stockton tonight that turned your head?
Yeah, well, you talk about how David is like a little guy, or a little guy compared to NBA players, and yeah, when you see him in person, he definitely just looks like any other person, in the street. Yeah, we saw him. I mean, he can definitely dribble. He took only 1 field goal, I believe, which he missed, or he took 2 field goals. But he must thank Austin Rivers for that technical that put him on the line to help him record his first assist. Because again, this might be his first and last opportunity to play an NBA game, and he also had 2 rebounds, so we have to give him credit for that.
All right, let's get to our keys to the game. Your first key to the game is out with Blake Griffin, in with Spencer. Everyone in Sacramento loves to death. Spencer Hawes, 7 points, 6 rebounds tonight. He was actually pretty decent early on, and then they didn't need him, and he picked up 5 fouls. Sacramento Kings fans love to hate Mr. Spencer Hawes, a former Sacramento King. Rui, was there anything that stuck out from you with Mr. Hawes' game tonight?
Well, if Blake Griffin had played, this game could have been probably uglier. Hard to imagine, but he set the tone early. He hit a 3 to put the Clippers up, I believe, 5-2, and he had some pretty good blocks. He had 6 rebounds, and he's had a really bad season as far as cleaning the glass. So really physical. Drew a T on DeMarcus Cousins when he flipped the ball up, and Cousins kind of shoved it out of the way, which may have contributed to Cousins' terrible game. So he definitely had an impact on this game, but definitely no Blake Griffin.
Yeah, definitely no Blake Griffin. Definitely, what do we call him? Creepy Rob Lowe. That's what I call Spencer Hawes at this point. He looks like creepy Rob Lowe because that's what his hair looks like. Just look, I don't know. Hawes is a nice kid. I've actually met him a couple of times. He's a nice kid, but very opinionated. Burned a lot of bridges in Sacramento on his way out the door. And again, a big, huge Seattle Supersonics fan, and very outspoken about them trying to steal away the Sacramento Kings a couple of years ago. So Kings fans will continue to hate Spencer Hawes. Let's get to our second key of the game, which is curbing turnovers. Rui, this is the way I see it. Last night they had 26. Tonight they had 17. When they play Memphis on Wednesday, I expect 8 turnovers. And by the time we get to Friday's game, the Kings will have plus one in the turnover category. Is that how you see this happening?
Yeah, if the rules allow, I definitely see that trend happening. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess we can call 17 turnovers tonight an improvement, and that first 10-minute stretch of the game was very encouraging. Until Ray McCallum lost the ball and it like just spilled out of bounds. 17 turnovers for this team. Yeah, again, I guess that's pretty good for the 28th ranked team in the NBA in turnovers.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll point out too is that a few of those turnovers came really late in this game when the Kings really like emptied out their bench. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a break. I mean, if David Stockton is going to turn the ball over twice in the waning seconds of a game, I think I'm going to kind of, they had 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Outside of like maybe the last minute where he gave the ball up to Austin Rivers twice, and Austin Rivers just like unmercifully dunked and went and got in all kinds of trouble with his dad for not cleaning his room and not for not backing the ball out. I think that it's one of those deals where 15 turnovers. If you're the Sacramento Kings, if you're George Karl, you'll live with 15 turnovers, and that's right about where the Kings should have finished tonight if it wasn't for those last late ones. Okay, maintaining downtown. Now, Rui, I'm going to let you take this because, man, this is such an issue with this Sacramento Kings team. The inability to shoot the long-range shot and the inability to guard the long-range shot. So go ahead and go on this one.
Okay, James. Well, the Kings came into tonight 28th in three-point attempts and 29th in the makes. And, last night in George Karl's first game, they went 8 for 22, which is great, right, for any team. But tonight, couldn't get going. 4 for 16, 2 for 12 at one point, while the Clippers, just shredded them on the perimeter. Because again, the Kings, they just can't stick with their man when the ball's moving around. The Clippers went 14 for 35 from behind the arc, and at one point they were 9 for 16, which is when they had to stretch to put the Kings out of reach. So this is definitely something Karl and his staff need to look into moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be an issue with this team for some reason. I'm not quite sure what it is. We talked about the pick and roll defense. We talked about, staying on your man, not breaking down. Don't be a guy waiting for a bus. Let your guy wander away from you. I know the Sacramento Kings have a long history of doing that. We've talked about this a little bit before, but the main difference that I see between George Karl's defense and Michael Malone's defense is that Malone played a very strict stay on your man policy, although it didn't really work early in the season as far as still the three-point shooting against. The three-point shooting against started to come down, and we saw that like happening. But the Kings under Malone didn't gamble for steals at all, and it actually hurt them because steals lead to easy baskets on the other end. They lead to turnovers, of course, and sort of if you can win the turnover battle and if you can get some easy baskets on the other end, then you're probably going to have a decent shot. George Karl loves to steal the ball. He is a play the passing lane, gamble, fly all over the court, sort of we'll figure it out later type of coach when it comes to defense. If someone's going to dunk on you, who cares? Shake it off, inbounds the ball, get back to the other end and go score on them. And we're still waiting for that moment where the Sacramento Kings team figures out how to be aggressive, play those passing lanes. Again, tonight, just 4 steals. Last night, just 6 steals. That isn't going to work. It's not going to work when you only force 11 turnovers to the Clippers, especially when you're going to turn the ball over 17 times. You can't lose that battle every night, just like you can't lose, the rebound battle and a lot of the other battles that happen, points in the paint and fast break points, stuff like that. So I see that as an issue that Sacramento Kings are going to have to deal with as far as tightening it up. They need more steals. They need to allow less steals. They need to turn the ball over less. So going forward, that is going to be a point of emphasis, playing faster, but without turning the ball over all day long. So, Rui, give me your MVP. Who you got?
Hate to pick a Clipper, so I mean, we have to. Well, I'd have to say Omri Caspi because I mean, first off, this guy does not quit. I don't think at any point this season we've seen any bad body language from him. Played hard through the end when the Kings were down more than 30 in garbage time. The 17 rebounds, career high, is just shame that it had to be wasted in this blowout loss. And those points he put back, he rarely has plays drawn up for him, I believe. And he's starting to find his three ball again. So very promising performance tonight, and hopefully we'll see something similar in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Clippers because the Clippers absolutely shellac the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to say Jamal Crawford and Austin Rivers get co-MVP honors for scoring 51 points off the bench. I don't think the Kings have ever scored 51 points off the bench this season. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe once or twice, but yeah, it was a very nice look by just those two players. So it was kind of ugly to watch if you're a Kings fan, but you do have to, on occasion, enjoy a good heat check, see somebody catch fire, and just do some crazy things. You probably don't want the Klay Thompson experience like every night because that's basically what these two did. They went Klay Thompson on you combining for 51 points, but those guys were good tonight, and you gotta tip your hat to guys who figure out a way to give you a good, solid effort on the perimeter. So, all right, Rui, do you have any final thoughts before we cash in this Road Reaction postgame show?
James, I'd just like to say tonight was a reality check for the Kings, and now they realize they have a lot more work to do as opposed to just having the miracle worker George Karl come into town.
Slow and steady wins the race, Mr. Rui Thomas. You gotta be patient, fans. George Karl is a very, very good coach, an exceptional coach, but at the same time, this is the same team, the same exact roster that went 7-21s, except for the fact that Andre Miller's here, and we'll keep saying this, but Andre Miller is 38 years old. He is going to be 39 in just a couple of weeks. No spring chicken. He knows how to play the game of basketball really well. He's going to give you everything he's got. He's already playing more minutes than he had all season long with Washington. And while Darren Collison is out, we're going to see a lot of Andre Miller while they try to figure out this Ray McCallum, who is Ray McCallum type deal. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction postgame show. We will be back for a couple of postgame shows this week. We've got Wednesday against Memphis. We got Friday. It just starts to turn ugly. We got San Antonio on Friday, followed by Portland on Sunday, and then it's the horrific 8-game road trip starting in New York against the Knicks, and then back-to-back in San Antonio. That's not even fair, people. Just so you know, the back-to-back, that first back-to-back, is brutal. If you see, if you see Greg Popovich rest a few players that night and still beat the Kings by 30, don't be alarmed. I would be shocked if Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker play in that game, just because I think they're going to have their way with the Kings because of a brutal back-to-back. That's a rescheduled game from the earlier game this season where the game got fake snowed out, faux snow, where the snow didn't come, but they thought it was going to. So, brutal stretch here for the Sacramento Kings. If they can get through this, there's actually some very winnable games down the stretch. Keep your fingers crossed that this thing holds together while George Karl tries to implement his grand plan to turn the Sacramento Kings around. So, for Mr. Rui Thomas, say goodnight, Rui.
Good night.
I'm waiting for you to say goodnight, Rui. I am James Ham. You've been watching the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction post-game show. Have a good night now.